Absolute rubbish.
We don't need no education.
To Muslims in the Indian subcontinent have a higher probability of acquiring modern education when living amongst Muslims or non-Muslims. If you think this question is inappropriate or even Islamophobic, do bear in mind that it has been the subject of study for more than 100 years. Namaskar. My name is Ajay Sharma. Welcome to the Quinquennial. What if I were to state 3 points with reference to education of Muslims in the Indian subcontinent? Educational focus of most Muslims is not the same as non-Muslims. Most Muslims feel proud when their children memorize the Quran. In comparison, non-Muslim parents push their children to excel in modern education. Most Muslims insist on Urdu as the medium of instruction, even when the local language is different and may have no connection to Urdu. These are not my points. They are merely restatements of what the British observed in a detailed survey published more than 100 years back in 1907. Based on your individual experiences, you can decide how true these observations are in 2024. Meanwhile, this is how the British put it in their survey. The backwardness of Muslims is attributable partly to poverty, partly to indifference, and partly to their educational wants not being the same as those of the remainder of the population among whom they live. They require their children to learn the Quran by rote at an age when other children are beginning to make progress in secular education, and they have a preference for the use of Urdu as a medium of instruction, even when it is not the vernacular language of the locality. Both these causes operate to make the common schools less attractive to Mohammedans than to members of other creeds. What forced the British to come up with this observation? Well, Muslims constituted 24% of the population of undivided India. But when it came to enrollments in high and middle schools, Muslim students added up to only 9.2% and only 3.2% of all enrollment in colleges. So the percentage enrollment of Muslims was not just low at the school level, it dropped even further when it came to enrollment in colleges. The British also observed something disturbing. The percentage enrollment of Muslims dropped sharply in Muslim majority areas versus non-Muslim majority areas. The British felt that maybe the Muslim majority areas were underserved, so they drew up a plan to increase the number of educational institutions in Muslim majority areas. To their surprise, the Muslim communities resisted putting up any more educational institutions in their areas. The British realized that the low enrollment of Muslims in modern education were more of an attitudinal problem and not a matter of being underserved. So the British changed their tactics. They offered scholarships and reduced school fees for Muslim students. But it did not help either. So what did the British do as a last resort? The British resorted to what most modern day governments do when faced with the same problem. The British offered grants and subsidies to madrasas if they were open to introducing modern education. What was the outcome of all these efforts? Well, here are some statistics that can help you answer the question. In 1946, Lahore's population of Muslims stood at 61%. But let's take a look at the percentage of Muslim students enrolled in the two most distinguished institutions in the city. Pathetic. Surprisingly, the percentage enrollment of Muslims in Punjab University was higher. It is obvious that the rich Muslim elite of Punjab, soon to become the elite of Pakistan, did not believe in modern education. Maybe it felt, जब बिना पढ़े लिखे ही बनोगे नवाब, तो why to worry? The other question that comes up is, what was the situation of Muslim literacy in undivided Bengal? So here is a chart. If you think by looking at the chart that the literacy of Muslims in East Pakistan improved after partition, have no such thought. The 1951 census of East Pakistan also included Muslims who could only recite the Quran by rote among the literate category, though on all other parameters of literacy, they would qualify as illiterate. So let us turn our attention back to the question that we posed at the start of this episode. Do Muslims in the Indian subcontinent have a higher probability of acquiring modern education when living amongst Muslims or non-Muslims? A statistical analysis of data from British Times indicates that Muslims living in non-Muslim majority areas have a higher probability of getting educated than Muslims living in Muslim majority areas. Researchers indicate that a 10% increase in the Muslim population in an area leads to a 1.2 to 1.8% decrease in the Muslim literacy in that area. So in simple words, it means that Muslim literacy in an area was negatively correlated with the increasing presence of Muslims in the area. Given this observation, what do you expect in the land of the pure? Education emergency. But should people in the land of the pure be surprised? Hell no, not if they know history. Certainly not Pakistani intellectuals who claim to know the history of Hindus and India more than Hindus and Indians do. Unless, of course, if they want to perversely shift attention by constantly pontificating to India and specifically to Hindus. Or if they want to escape a harsh reality by constantly referring to India's educational and industrial success as merely a post-1947 phenomenon brought about by Nehru and Maulana Azad. We know how true that is if we study the history of modern education and modern industry in the Indian subcontinent. If you like this episode, please do like it and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to the Kafirnama. You will get regular updates on our new episodes and new series. Jai Bharat.